So the topic today is contract management, which is a core topic of project business management. I would like to discuss with you what project business management is. I would like to talk with you about contract management, why you need some knowledge in contract management, a bit where the problems are for us as project managers when we have to deal with that. And the focus, I think time-wise, the main focus will be really on how to resolve problems that come out of contract management. So actually, it's a lot of people who are involved in project business management. First of all, of course, project managers on side of a customer who is buying something, but also on side of a contractor. Contractor side project managers are not sufficiently regarded and then looked at the moment wherever you go. If you go to literature, if you go to universities and training where I come from, in my opinion, we don't do enough for project managers on contractor side. And this is one of the problems that project business has and that project contracting has also. People are not sufficiently prepared for that. And then we have a lot of other professionals who are in this business. For instance, people from business development. Since I'm dealing with project business management, I met a lot of people from business development, and there's an own association for that and many other things. So we have a lot of people here who are also welcome in this workshop. And some of you may be from a PMO, or if you're a contract organization, if this is how you make money, you may even have a PBM, a project business management office. And of course, my colleagues as trainers and educators, we heard already, some of them are here, consultants and freelancers. What does it mean when the project becomes the business? Many of you will say, hey, that's my work. That's what I've been doing maybe for years. And same is true for me. The problem is we do it, but we don't really talk about it. So let's talk about that. I think we see a massive trend in project management to go from cross-functional to cross-corporate projects. I remember it for myself. Until about 25 years, I was the practitioner, not the trainer, of course. I was in a company, we were in process engineering, so it was about machinery, it was about chemistry. The biggest focus area was automotive for us at that time, but also aerospace and marine and many others. And we had an R&D department in our organization, and there were research and development projects, of course, in this R&D department. And you see in my little diagram here, this R&D department was an enclosed space. Not everyone was allowed to get in there. Authorized personnel only was at the front door. And I was one of a small group of people inside the organization who was allowed to get in there and see what they are doing and talk with people there and work together with them. Most employees in the organization were not allowed to enter the R&D department. And this R&D department was inside protective walls of an organization. Around this, you see the company here. And these walls were very firm. And you could not simply penetrate through these walls. Everything was in a closed environment here. By the way, an interesting industry where you see both worlds that I'm describing here is pharmaceutical industry. Classical pharmaceutical industry based on chemistry still works like that. Mostly they do it in R&D departments as internal projects. Now what we see in many industries that modern R&D is different. A lot of the R&D work is handed out to other organizations. These are contractors and they do research and development under contract. If you are with pharmaceuticals, and you have some knowledge of biochemistry. That's how biochemistry works today. Biochemistry is mostly not done inside the protective walls of the organization and of the R&D department. It's given into someone else's hands. By the way, it is much faster than traditional pharmaceutical development. It's much more effective. And the products with which pharmaceutical companies make their money today is mostly on the right-hand side, developed on the right-hand side, because it adds a lot of agility. to these companies, but it comes with new risks. And it comes with another thing. If you look at these green boxes here, the external companies, the external R&D department teams, the contractors here, they also have project managers. And these project managers run customer projects. For the blue box here, the R&D project is a project done for own purposes, new products, new services to protect their future. For the green boxes, this is the business of them. Their business is doing these projects, sometimes over many years. So what we see is that team structures are changing. This is the traditional team structure, cross-functional teams. I think we have quite well understood how they are working and how they are not working often, the reasons for that as well. It's a difficult situation, but it's the situation that is somehow assumed to be the normal situation in project management, still by many organizations, by academia, by literature, and wherever you go. That's the situation that they mostly describe. We have a project team that takes its resources, human resources, maybe machinery, rooms, many other things, takes them from out of divisions and departments. It's all inside the protective walls of the organization. A big number of modern projects are different. Now we have a team here where the team members come from different organizations. There's a customer organization. In my example, we have two contractor organizations working for the customer. And you see on the right-hand side, the contractor is not just the contractor, it's a prime contractor, which means this organization has subcontractors in this little example too again. And of course, they can have subcontractors and so on. And they have consultants and they have freelancers working for them. In essence, all are independent organizations, independent players, and they are linked together with contracts. And you see in my very, very simple example here, with 5 organizations involved, we already have 4 contracts in here. A contract may be in writing, it may be a verbal contract, but they work under contract. And each of these contracts has the power, has the risk coming with it that something goes wrong and not only damages an organization involved, but damages the entire project. So I think this is project management of the 21st century. In some organizations, they have worked like that for many, many years. Some industries have worked like that for many, many decades, actually. Think of construction, infrastructure, also. Aerospace have done this for many, many decades. In other industries, organizational development, IT, and so on, the trend is newer, the trend is younger, but wherever you look, you can find it everywhere. And even those organizations where this is an older trend, you see that these networks that are growing, these networks made of organizations, they get larger and larger and larger. The complexity is growing, more and more organizations involved. What is the driving force for this development? I'm a big fan of SurveyMonkey, and I'm a big fan of surveys. I've done lots of surveys in the last couple of years, and each of them had some new knowledge and often some surprises in. Here was a survey I made 3.5 years ago. I asked organizations, if you look at the make or buy decisions in your organization, what do you see as a trend? More towards make or more towards buy? And I asked 2 questions. One is the recent past, and the next is expectations for the future. So the green bars are recent experience. And what we see is a majority is on the right-hand side in this diagram. This means in their organization, buying has been chosen more often as a trend towards choosing buying instead of choosing making. Some have a trend in the other direction, but the stronger trend is towards buy. And the red bars say, and they expect for the future some minor changes maybe, but generally they believe that this will go on like that in the future. Of course, this was before COVID times, and it will be interesting to see whether the COVID crisis changes anything here. It's still too early to make a new survey like that and ask people for that, because we are still too much in the crisis. But it will be an interesting question. What will people say after the crisis? My very personal expectation is I think the effect will be stronger, not weaker, because we will see organizations, they have to win agility, they have to win speed here. And with contracting, you're faster than with internal projects, which sounds strange, but it's really the case. Another group of surveys here, 3 of them I did, where I asked the other side, the project managers, are you currently managing an internal project? That's the blue bars here. Or are you managing a customer project? And there are some other settings here as well. That's the yellow part, which is not really interesting for us here. It's the blue and the red. And what we see here is in all 3 surveys, we have more people doing customer projects than internal projects. So some industries are further developed in that, others come later, but I think the overall trend is towards customer projects, which means towards contractual work under contract by contractors for customers, of course. Yeah. So I think that's where, whenever we repeat that, it comes again more than 50% in customer projects. They develop structures that can become quite complex. You just saw my example with this team. When we look more on the contract side now, not so much on the team side, which is also an interesting topic, by the way, but our topic today is the contract side. So we see this here again. We have several tiers of contractors and subcontractors with contracts in. One of the coincidences of my life was that about 30 years ago, I was in automotive industry when modern supply chain management began, when the groundwork was laid for modern supply chain management, something which is very well developed, meanwhile, in not only automotive industry, but in many manufacturing areas. And the starting points were things like ISO 9000 and EDI and some very, very bright, intelligent people who developed this all. And today, if you look at supply chain management, everything is engineered, things are understood. People at BMW here, just around the corner from me, they know precisely what their contractors will do next month and what the contractors of their contractors will do next month, and so on. They have a full understanding of their supply chains and they engineer them and optimize them and so on. I think we have precisely the same development in project management as well. We see that these internal projects get replaced not only by customer-contractor relationships, but by a development of supply networks. I call them PSNs, project supply networks. Unfortunately, we lack all those things that make supply chains in automotive industry and other manufacturing areas, make them successful. We don't have the people who understand this business. We don't have people who engineer that. If you are interested in supply chain management, you can study this at the university. You have a lot of literature on that and so many things. Yeah. What do we have on that? So that's where we are today. And on the right-hand side, you see these arrows. These are so important for us because what it in the end means is we deliver deliverables or we provide resources against money. So we have 2 flows in here, a flow of results and a flow of money in opposite direction. That's the normal process that we have. Real world is more complicated than that, but that's the basic process that it's all about. And that's a typical contractual situation. If you go into a bookstore and buy a book, you get the book and you leave your money there, and we do precisely the same. Actually, what we are doing is pretty normal business. One wonders why nobody is really talking about that.